Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're having a lovely day. Blackberry has just joined us in the chair, so most likely it is indeed going to be a lovely day. What I'd like to do is I'd like to read a proposed piece of legislation that many people in my audience are very concerned about. And we're going to try to figure out if the members of my audience have reason to be paranoid about it, or if they've just been reading too much FUD online. I tend to lean on the side of things like the Earn It Act being horrible, similar to when I discussed the Restrict Act. What we did was, rather than read blog sites, we read the actual text of the bill and pointed out the parts that were of concern with a heavily time-stamped video. And we are going to do the same thing here. So what I'd like to do, before I get into reading the text of the Earn It Act, is read what the EFF has had to say about it, and then we're going to read the actual bill that is proposed and see how bad it actually is. So here's what the EFF is saying. Giving states and private litigants the power to threaten private companies with criminal prosecution and costly civil litigation unless they scan all of users' private messages shows blatant disregard for the millions of law-abiding people who depend on secure messaging to safely communicate. Military families, survivors of domestic violence, victims of identity theft, and many others. There are many people for whom true end-to-end encryption is vital for personal safety and peace of mind. I agree. Now, why is this so bad? The Earn It Act creates an unelected government commission, stacks it with law enforcement personnel, and then tasks it with creating best practices for running an internet website or app. The act then removes a nearly 30-year-old legal protection for users and website owners, allowing state legislatures to encourage civil lawsuits and prosecutions against those who don't follow the government's best practices. That's bad. As long as state lawmakers somehow tie changes in the law to CSA, the bill would allow them to avoid long-standing legal protections and pass new rules that allow for criminal prosecution and civil lawsuits against websites that don't actively search users' communications, even private encrypted communications to which the platform would otherwise not have access. Websites and apps that use end-to-end encryption to protect user privacy will be pressured to remove or compromise the security of their services. Also bad. If Earn It passes, we will see state lawmakers step in and mandate scanning of messages and other files, similar to the plan that Apple wisely walked away from last year. Notably, the bill leaves room to impose forms of client-side scanning, which violates user privacy by sending data to law enforcement straight from user devices before a message is encrypted. EFF has long held that client-side scanning violates the privacy promise of end-to-end encryption, even though it allows the encryption process to proceed in a narrow, limited sense. Client-side scanning makes end-to-end encryption useless. What is the point of something being encrypted in transit if it is being viewed by others before transit? Having client-side scanning and saying that is fine because we have end-to-end encryption is kind of like saying, if you're on a diet where you're not allowed to eat any red meat for dinner, don't worry about it. I did not eat any red meat for dinner because at 2 p.m. I went to Texas Roadhouse. Like, that doesn't make any sense. If you still ate the red meat, you just ate it 2 hours before dinner, it doesn't mean that your body is magically not going to process it the same way that it would have if you had eaten it for dinner. Having client-side scanning with end-to-end encryption makes the end-to-end encryption as useless as tits on a bull. The current language merely says that a platform's security measures, including encryption, shall not serve as an independent basis for liability, but it emphasizes that courts can consider otherwise admissible evidence of encryption as evidence of the provider's liability. As an example, WhatsApp messages are end-to-end encrypted, and WhatsApp cannot decrypt them. Under the newest version of the Earn It Act, those features can be used as evidence to support a court finding that WhatsApp was reckless or even negligent in transmitting child SAM on its service in violation of state law. This is a much lower state of mind requirement than in current federal law. The bill's broad terms could be interpreted as reaching more passive conduct, like merely providing an encrypted application. This is not defensible. The government has unused tools to fight CSAM. Since 2008, providers have faced large fines if they fail to report CSAM after receiving actual knowledge of its presence on these platforms. Yet the EFF knows of no case where the federal government has ever enforced this provision, because the federal government does not, nor has it ever cared about protecting children. The federal government does not care about protecting kids. When will people wake up and recognize this? So let's read the actual text of the bill and see how horrible it is. Is the EFF just making this up and being hyperbolic, or is this actually a genuinely bad piece of legislation? I will link to this down below. This is from congress.gov. S-1207, to establish a national commission on the online child sexual exploitation prevention and for other purposes in the Senate of the United States. I'm just not going to read all the names over here. You can read that down below if you wish. to establish a national commission on online child sexual exploitation prevention and for other purposes, be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America in Congress assembled. Section 1, short title. This act may be cited as the Eliminating Abuse and Rampant Neglect of Interactive Technologies Act of 2023 or the Earn It Act of 2023. Section 2, definitions. In this act, commission. The term commission means the National Commission on Online Child Sexual Exploitation Prevention. 2, interactive computer service. The term interactive computer service has the meaning given to it in Section 230 F2 of the Communications Act of 1934. Section 3, National Commission on Online Child Sexual Exploitation Prevention. A, establishment. There is established a National Committee on Online Child Sexual Exploitation Prevention. B, purpose. The purpose of the commission is to develop recommended best practices that providers of interactive computing services may choose to implement to prevent, reduce, and respond to the online sexual exploitation of children, including the enticement, sex trafficking, and sexual abuse of children and proliferation of online child sexual abuse material. C, membership. 1, composition. A, in general, the commission shall be composed of 19 members. B, agency heads. The following federal officials shall serve as members of the commission. 1, the Attorney General or his or her representative. 2, the Secretary of Homeland Security or his or her representative. 3, the Chairman of the Federal Trade Commission or his or her representative. C, other members. Of the remaining 16 members of the commission, 1, 4 shall be appointed by the majority leader of the Senate, of whom 1 shall have the qualifications required under Clause 1 or 2 of Paragraph 2A. 2, 1 shall have the qualifications required under Paragraph 2B. 3, 1 shall have the qualifications required under Clause 1 or 2 of Paragraph 2C. And 4, 1 shall have the qualifications required under Clause 1 or 2 of Paragraph 2D. 2, 4 shall be appointed by the minority leader of the Senate, of whom, and just, I'm not going to read this because this is literally copy pasta. Hopefully you understand why it is. I'm just not reading the same thing over and over. C, 1, 2 shall have current experience in matters related to consumer protection, civil liberties, civil rights, or privacy. This is going to be the token member of the panel because, again, if we're talking about a bill that has the ability to weaken end-to-end encryption, this is going to be like that guy Juan that used to be on Fox's morning show. Like, it's not... I mean, there just did be a punching bag. Section 4, duties of the commission. A, recommended best practices. Here we go. 1, initial recommendations. A, in general, not later than 18 months after the date on which a majority of the members of the commission required to be appointed under Section 3(c)(1)(c) have been so appointed, the commission shall develop and submit to the Attorney General recommended best practices that providers of interactive computer services may choose to engage in to prevent, reduce, and respond to the online sexual exploitation of children, including the enticement, sex trafficking, and sexual abuse of children and the proliferation of online child sexual abuse material. B, requirements. 1, alternative best practices. The best practices required to be developed and submitted under subparagraph A shall include alternatives that take into consideration 1, the size, type of product, and business model of a provider of an interactive computer service. 2, whether an interactive computer service, A, is made available to the public. B, is primarily responsible for hosting, storage, display, and retrieval of information on behalf of third parties, including providers of other interactive computer services. Or C, provides the capability to transmit data to and receive data from all or substantially all internet endpoints on behalf of a consumer. And 3, whether a type of product, business model, product design, or other factors related to the provision of an interactive computer service could make a product or service susceptible to the use and facilitation of online child sexual exploitation. Ding, 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 ding! Here we go. So this is not paranoia. Let's take a look over here. Whether a type of product, business model, product design, or other factors related to the provision of an interactive computer service could make a product or service susceptible to the use and facilitation of online child sexual exploitation. Here you go. That is the smoking gun. That is the line that is going to be used to say, hey, it looks like you have end-to-end encryption without client-side scanning. Man, looks like you're accountable for that. Looks like you're liable for that. If somebody uses your platform to do something bad, that's on you for providing a service to consumers that allows them privacy and security. That type of shit has to be wiped out of here. But again, here's the thing. The purpose of this bill is so that that's in there. And you bet your ass that is going to be used in horrible, horrible ways in the future. Simply because 0.0001% of the population does horrible things does not mean that a platform should be held liable for providing security and encryption to the other 99.99999% of the population. This is bullshit, and the EFF is not in any way, shape, or form spreading fear, uncertainty, or doubt by saying exactly how this is going to be used by state legislatures both now and into the future if this garbage passes. Matters addressed. The matters addressed by the recommended best practices developed and submitted by the Commission under Paragraph 1 shall include C. Retaining child sexual exploitation content and related user identification and location data. Retaining CSAM content and related user ID and location data. What if the system has a false positive? Do you guys remember a story that I talked about last year where during COVID, when doctors' offices were closed, the doctor said, okay, can you send me a picture of your son so that I can figure out what's going on? So he did it via Google Drive, and Google reported him to the police for CSAM. And the way that they were able to justify doing this in context is there was a picture of the mother in bed with the child. The mother didn't have a bra on as she was holding her child like this. And well, that must mean that's CSAM. I talked about that here, and the New York Times also did an amazing article going over this very case, which I think all of you should read, even if you dislike the New York Times. This will genuinely red pill you when it comes to why it is end-to-end encryption is important, and this entire concept of, well, if you're doing nothing wrong, you have nothing to worry about. What if the system accidentally flags something as CSAM when it is not CSAM? You have now created a justification to de-anonymize me and collect my location data. No! You are not collecting my location data or my identity if I don't want you to. And you are not going to use this nonsense. Because again, a photo that a doctor requested of a sick child during COVID when they were not able to make it into the doctor's office was used as justification to report this family to the police and screw up their lives for a year. You're going to say, I know what you're going to say. Oh, that was just the computer's fault. A human would definitely fix that. The human said, because we saw a picture of you naked. As for Mark, Miss Lily at Google said that reviewers had not detected a rash or redness in the photos he took, and that the subsequent review of his account turned up a video from 6 months earlier that Google also considered problematic. How I hate that word. Of a young child lying in bed with an unclothed woman. Here's what kills me the most here. For all the talk we have about men policing women's bodies and stuff like that, you have a woman that worked at Google that looked at a picture of another female that was in bed with her child. It was like 5 or 6 in the morning, and she's embracing the child without a bra on. That was the context necessary for her to say, this family must be filled with pedos. Let's report him to the police. Can you imagine a woman's policing another woman's body to the extent that you cannot not have your bra on while you are in bed with your infant son? For all the people out there that are going to say, don't worry if the machine gets it wrong. There'll be a person reviewing it so that there's no false flag. This actually happened at Google, and it was a fellow female that was reporting this mother to the police because they had a kid in bed without her having her shirt on. Have they ever heard of breastfeeding? Anyway, it's legitimately infuriating. But in all seriousness, I want you to imagine the worst HOA Karen you have ever met in your life. You know, that type of person that has their binoculars through the blinds looking to see if your grass blade is a 1/4 inch larger than it should be, or to see if you were skipping to your door too happily as you opened it to enter your home and making too much of a ruckus. That type of person is the type of person that is going to be rifling through your images and your text messages and deciding whether or not they are appropriate. If you agree with this act, if this act is passed, those are the types of people you are giving power to, and you should never give power to those people. 7. Encryption technologies. A. In general, notwithstanding paragraph 6, none of the following actions or circumstances shall serve as an independent basis for liability of a provider of an interactive computer service for a claim or charge described in that paragraph. 1. The provider uses full end-to-end encrypted messaging services, device encryption, or other encryption services. 2. The provider does not possess the information necessary to decrypt a communication. 3. The provider fails to take an action that would otherwise undermine the ability of a provider to offer full end-to-end encrypted messaging services, device encryption, or other encryption services. B. Consideration of evidence. Nothing in subparagraph A shall be construed to prohibit a court from considering evidence or of actions or circumstances described in that subparagraph if the evidence is otherwise permissible. Nothing in subparagraph A shall be construed to prohibit a court from considering evidence of actions or circumstances described in that subparagraph if the evidence is otherwise admissible. That seems to completely undo A. The way I read that, and to be clear, I'm not an attorney, is By the way, you're allowed to have end-to-end encryption. We're not saying you can't. We're just saying that that can potentially be used against you as one of the pieces of evidence that you don't care about this stuff being on your platform. So we're not going to say that you can't be end-to-end encrypted. We're just saying that it may just be easier for you to get effed in court if you are. That's not helping. As very importantly stated by the EFF, nothing you see over here says that they cannot be held accountable or responsible for lacking client-side scanning. And again, what is client-side scanning? Client-side scanning is, hey, listen, we're going to encrypt your message in transit. We're just going to look at it before you send it, which completely defeats the purpose. Why would I care about encrypting my message in transit if I'm allowing the manufacturer of my device, product, or service to view everything that I send before I send it? That defeats the complete purpose of end-to-end encryption. This is a horrible, horrible piece of legislation, and every single person involved who watches this video should A, figure out who their House representative and senator is, B, contact them, and C, tell them that they will vote for their direct opposition in any election, regardless of how much they hate them, if this comes to pass. Because that's the only way that you are going to get people to back down on this. They suggested this garbage piece of legislation last year. People got mad. They're trying to do it again this year. And it's not going to stop unless people do something about it. So here is my call to action for my audience. Do something about it. Don't ask me what you can do about it. Just do something about it. Be an adult. Figure out who your senator is. Figure out who your House representative is. Call them. Email them. Show up to their offices. Be adults. Don't be one of those people in the comments that goes, I don't like this piece of legislation, but I don't know what I can do. Did you take a civics course in high school? Anyway, that's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think I'm overreacting? Do you think the EFF is overreacting? Or do you think this is a garbage piece of legislation? I'll include everything that I read down below so that you can choose for yourself what it is that you believe based on the source material as well as the EFF's commentary on it. But wait, before we end the video, I'm going to try to be a knockoff version of Linus Tech Tips. Are you ready? Are you ready? Check out the merchandise we got over here. Look at this. Not only can you get an Atom 862 hot air rework station for the lowest price in the continental United States, including free shipping, and that ship same day. As of May 3rd, these now ship same day that you buy them. We also have a merch store over here where you can buy things like a mug that says clouds are for rain. This is kind of poking fun at the fact that subscription services and cloud services have become a meme. Subscriptions, privacy risks, server shutdowns, closed ecosystems, platform lock-ins, always online, with a little X button over here. Click here to get your mug that says clouds are for rain, making fun of the fact that most modern cloud services kind of suck. We have mugs that say dealership tears over here, poking fun at the fact that there's a certain tractor company that lost big in Colorado recently and is going to be taking lots of L's in other states. We have the You'll Own Everything and They'll Be Pissed mug. We have all different types of merchandise over here, and the money goes straight and directly to feeding BlackBerry, as well as, admittedly, getting a new Tori Amos box set. But that's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. Links in the description down below. That's bit.ly/Rossman Store. bit.ly/Rossman Store. The shilling will never end. Neither will BlackBerry shedding, actually. That's how you can tell that you have a healthy kitty. When you comb her just one day ago and she sheds like crazy the next day, and it's the smoothest fur that comes off of her. You are such a cute berry. Anyway, see you later.